Today we're going to walk through exactly, how to bring a dream custom home to life. And then I am Yue He from Yue He Homes with Century 21 New Millennium. And then today I bring Tom and Howard, who has already guided me through the process, and I feel extremely helpful. And then, they deliver their promise, and then they explain lots of things to me, and definitely use their knowledge and experience and help me a lot, so that I feel like everyone would benefit from their knowledge and experience, and that's why I bring them together. And that's how this um interview comes from. So Tom and Howard, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Howard Saslow. I've been building custom homes for over 40 years in Maryland, both as a company owner and vice president of operations for other companies. And I'm passionate about home building. I love the process and I love helping clients realize their dream.
Sounds great.
Very, very good. I'm Tom Lizzio, and I have been in this industry just under 40 years. So Howard's got me there. But I started out as a general contractor in the 80s, and then I was recruited into the mortgage business where I specialized in construction lending for a 20-year run. And while I was doing that, I had the opportunity to, as it started out, dabble back into my passion of new construction, which turned out to me building custom homes and actually walking away from financing for a few years. And after another successful run building custom homes, I sold that business and decided it's time for me to work on me and be able to create a much broader net, and that put me right back into financing and specializing in new construction. So I bring a lot of experience and let's call it expertise, if you will, on both sides of the lender, as a lender and a builder. And as Howard said, I just can't get away from this industry. I love the business.
Mhm.
Sounds great. It's awesome. Like, today that our interview is mainly focused on those people that haven't built, and they are thinking of building their first customized home. And just imagine that I don't know anything. I didn't went through this. And at the very beginning, I would wish that somebody hold my hand and get me through all this business so that I don't have to talk to so many builders and interview and kind of verify each information and trying to find out if who I can trust and all that. So if you can, provide some information today to those kind of people, like, where I were in that position, I'd like to ask you, the first question would be, what is the average cost of building in DMV area? Because we all from DMV area.
That's a difficult question to answer. And one of the fallacies, or let's say one of the benchmarks that clients often come to the table with is how much does your house cost per square foot? And the reason that doesn't work is it's kind of like you don't buy a car by the pound. Um, every car is different. Every house is different. If I build a 3,000 square foot home with one kitchen and two and a half baths, and that house could range in price from, say, $250 a square foot, maybe less, all the way up to $700,000 a square foot, based on the complexity of the structure, the materials used, the quality of labor used. Um, you could put the same kitchen in for $30,000. You can spend $200,000. Same thing for your bathrooms. Are you putting carpet? Are you putting hardwood? What kind of windows are you putting in? How tall are your ceilings? There's so many aspects to home building and pricing a home that it's not fair to say, okay, this home is going to be X. However, for somebody who's just starting out, who wants a basic home, $225,000 per square foot, $225 a square foot, it's probably not unreasonable, but you also need to remember that probably does not include the site costs involved in actually building your home. And site costs vary on a county by county basis based on the permitting and regulations that each county puts in place. So every lot will stand on its own merits. Is it fully wooded? Is it steep slopes, long driveways? So many aspects to look at that you can't apply one formula to all houses. So the best thing to do is do your research, talk to people, talk to builders, um, talk to people that have built homes before to get a real sense for what's involved in the process. Over the years, one of my largest frustrations with home buyers is they will spend more time researching the next car they buy, the next computer they're going to buy, the next refrigerator they're going to buy, and not give any thought to what goes into building a house and building it well.
I
So,
think lots of people thought like, we new construction is the house that they already built there. We just buy and then they build. However, there is a limitation, right? Because you need 5 bedrooms, but only have 4 there. You need bathrooms on that side, but it's in this side. You need your master bedroom back to the road, but it's like right next to the road. So all this, but today that we all talk about the custom custom building. So everything is designed for your family and then everything is designed for your needs. And then Tom, you did so many new construction loans. And then what is your average like loan amount to this custom home? And what are those financial options to the publics?
Great question. And to piggyback on what Howard said, there are, so many variables that come into not only what makes a construction loan, but how is it priced and will it support that value? And, there have been times in my career where I've had some builders price per square foot that it just wasn't supported by the area or the location, and therefore it wouldn't appraise. And Howard is spot on when it talks about pricing price per square foot. When I was building, that was the leading question that somebody would come in and ask me, what's your price per square foot? Well, I don't really know where we're starting. And as Howard said, there's so much that goes into it. A lot of it has to do with the specs, what you put into it, what kind of a kitchen are you doing bath inserts? Are you doing all ceramic tile? I had a client that imported all of their ceramic from Italy. That was a little different a price per square foot than that one that said, well, I'm just going to go and pick something out from your local supplier. So all of those variables are not only important in your final cost, they're important when you go to do your loan, because sometimes those things are not supported in an appraisal or where the value is. And that can be a problem depending on the strength of the buyer, or as you know, it's location, location, location. Will the areas. And when I very important to me is I wanted to try and create a scalable product, a product that I could build the same house in Bethesda that I could build on a waterfront in Annapolis, because those were both my markets. And I actually could build the same house almost for the same price per square foot in those two different locations. What did differ is, well, not only what was the cost of the land, the site development as a big component, but sometimes you can spread out on a 3 acre lot in Annapolis, and you can stage your building there, and you don't have to worry about shutting down streets. When the supplier comes in, or you have to bring in a crane to support, set trusses and those kind of things. So there are variables that will drive up the cost. But first and foremost, the price per square foot almost doesn't matter if it's not a cash buyer or the appraisal won't support it, and you can't get the finances for it. So when it comes to the financing, a construction loan, as I train a lot of mortgage bankers in construction lending. I do a lot of seminars and classes and workshops. And as I tell them, a construction loan is just like any other loan until it's not. And that until it's not component has a lot to do with the build itself. When you're doing financing, it's the same. It's qualifying the customer income, assets, liabilities. That's pretty straightforward. But when you get into qualifying the property, qualifying the builder, and making sure that all of that comes together in a supported appraisal, that's usually where people get tripped up.
mhm, absolutely. 100% agree with Tom. Interesting what Tom was talking about, a 3 acre lot. I've done a lot of infill lots in and around Bethesda, Silver Spring, and those lots are so tight that we have to haul the dirt, all the dirt off the site when we excavate the foundation, and then we need to haul that dirt back in to backfill the foundation. You know, that's a really good example of a site cost that it adds quite a bit of money to the cost of construction that a layperson would not think about. But
Exactly.
as a builder, that's why very often we will separate out the site work cost as a separate allowance in a contract because there are so many variables. But let's face it, at the end of the day, most clients are not interested in watching how the sausage is made. They just like eating it. So they want to move into a beautiful home, and it takes a respectable, well-known, educated builder, somebody with good experience to work on challenging lots who can foresee these issues, build them into the cost, make the customer aware of it so that the customer has all the information they need going into it. The last thing a client wants is for the builder to come back and say, we're $100,000 over budget and you need to pay us that. Once you've got a construction loan in place, any overages are cash out of pocket. The bank's not going to go back and hand you some more money because you hit rock or bad ground or there was an overage for something else. That's going to be cash out of pocket. So that's where working with somebody with experience really helps out and prevents gotchas down the road.
You guys almost jump into my next question, how to find a beautiful lot. But before that, I'd like to just let people know that the construction loan does a little difference from, other loans. And then this is my new learn as well, that if you only qualified for 1.3 construction loan, and then later on when you do the modification, you may can qualify for 1.4 or 1.5, right? So this is another thing that, people need to know that don't think if you only qualify for 1.3, then you always qualified for the, conversion loan for 1.3. So that's not the case. And then, the new construction loan is only last from 12 months to 18 months. And then during the time, if you do have the cash out of pocket and there, but, later on you can get it back. It's just for people who has better cash flow in their business or, from their job or income. So yeah, this is very important. And then, it was like, surprised me, and then I was very happy to learn this information. So yeah, my next question is how to find a buildable lot.
Work with an experienced realtor. Keep your eyes on the multiple list. It depends on where you want to live, for one.
So what means buildable to a builder? Like, is it like there is a stream that you wouldn't build, or is in Bethesda there are lots of like quarter acre lot? And then some of them are not, buildable because of the size. It's only restricted to build in that little square that you wouldn't want to tear them down and rebuild the small house, right?
So, it's unfortunate here. I really wish I could give you easy answers to your questions because they're really good questions. But having done this for so long, I'd almost say I'm a little gun shy. Very often a client will come and say, oh my gosh, I just saw this lot come on the market. It is in Rockville. It is in Bethesda. It's in Potomac. They only want $100,000 for. What do you think? And my first thought is put your Nikes on and run fast. Nobody is going to sell a lot below market, that much below market, unless they know that there are issues with the lot, including perhaps not even buildable. I've looked at multiple lots in the Rockville area that are on the market, have been on the market for a long time, and different buyers keep bringing them. They're just not buildable. And what makes a lot not buildable? If there's no public water and sewer to a lot, then you have to have well and septic. And there are requirements that the septic field needs a minimum of 10,000 square feet. It needs to be far enough away, a stream buffer. If there's a stream, there needs to be a buffer between that septic and the stream. Same thing with construction. The well needs to be at least 100 feet away from the septic field. And if there's a stream running through the middle of it, maybe you can get those two in there, possibly, but then you don't have any room for your house. Steep slopes are challenging to build on and will add hundreds of thousands of dollars to the cost of building a home. As I said, it may not it may be a small lot, so there's no well and septic, but you don't have public water right in front of your property, in which case you need to extend the water and sewer, which means adding $200,000 to the cost of the home. Um, there, as you've alluded, at least Montgomery County, pretty much all counties, you're only going to be able to build a certain amount of lot coverage, meaning if you've got a 6,000 square foot lot, you can only cover maybe around 2,000 square feet of that lot with your house. And if you want a 6,000 square foot house, it's just not going to work. So the best thing to do when you identify a lot is bring that lot to somebody, a reputable builder, perhaps an engineer you know, and ask them to evaluate that lot for buildability, constructability, and cost. A builder is going to look at it a little bit differently than an engineer. Engineer is going to look at lot coverage, what we call the build box. He'll provide a box within the lot that says you have to fit your house within this box. A builder is going to go out and look at topography, is going to look to see if there are any constraints like very low utility lines, potentially rock, things like that. Just going back to well and septic, unless the septic has been approved in the last 20, 25 years by the health department, chances are good you're going to have to do what's called re-perk that lot. And the health department, they've tightened up their requirements since prior to 2000. So even if you find a house that you're going to tear down on an existing septic that was built in the 70s or the 80s, they're still going to make you re-perk that. And you can only re-perk during certain periods of time during the year. So if you buy that, you are taking a risk if you do not know that there's an improved perk, or you can assure yourself that it will perk.
Yeah, I think it's very helpful because I remember that there was one time that I was very excited to find those almost an acre lot and then go to Howard. I said, look, this is a beautiful, beautiful lot because they already have a little house on it. And then Howard just replied my email said, hey, we have already learned research on, we have already do 3 years research and then trying to design and make it beautiful, but it's actually we couldn't find a solution. So it's not beautiful to us right now. So it's because remember Howard, that was because the storm, what is it called? Storm management was on the back.
Stormwater management, yep.
Right. And then we only have such a little, small land that we could build, and then this highly risk that is running a stream running there. So there is just not making sense to knock that old house down and then build almost the same size or even smaller new house because nobody will, like buy there for a much higher price. So
Let me just add on that same subject matter because my take is spot on where Howard is. All those experiences of you don't know what you don't know when it comes to the land and whether or not it's buildable. But in the world of financing, once upon a time, and this is showing my age, how long I've been in it, I used to have a statement to customers when I would have a budget for the house itself for the build and then a separate budget for the site development or land development component. And somebody would come to me and say, well, we just bought this piece of property. We really don't know what we can do with it, but the agent said, don't worry, it's buildable. And I used to say, you know what? To a degree, that's a true statement. Almost every lot is buildable. It's just a matter of how much money you have to throw at it to make it buildable. And at the end of the day, as Howard said, it might end up being a tiny house. So to do that research, especially from the lending perspective, we have some insurance policies in place, if you will, that help protect our consumer to make sure that they're not getting into something that they can't get out of. I was buying a piece of property many, many years ago that I wanted to build a model home on and have my design center. And I put it under contract, and it took me $24,000 in engineering to find out that I could not build on that property and do what I wanted to with that property, which was to make it a design center and essentially almost a commercial piece of property. So therefore, It cost me $24,000 to find out that it wasn't a good value for me. And I look back at it today and say, you know what, that's still, rather than having had purchased that piece of property, it was probably $24,000 well spent.
Yeah. So
You know, it's
after
funny you
working,
say that because I joke that I've got several college degrees paid for by all the money spent making the mistakes that have taught me what I know today. You know, I, you spend those mistakes are mistakes and they're painful at the time. But as Tom said, he learned a lot from it. It probably helped him, and clients will benefit from the
our mistake.
educations that we've spent good money learning. Tom's 100% right. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
I also experienced that, a client come to me and then said they would like to sell the lot. And actually it was a beautiful lot. And then in Potomac that you only can build every 2 acres, those zoning. However, that was subdivided by the original owner because they own 4 point something acres and then they subdivided to a lot and trying to sell it. However, somehow because of some reason that the subdivided lot is only 1.98 acres. So because of point 2 acres that lot worth at the time for 700,000 couldn't build. So
oh,
the owner the owner like was trying to sell it, but when I learned that, I was like, we couldn't sell it because if we just post it at how much we are going to post it? We couldn't post it for 2 acres because it's not 2 acres lot.
right.
And then if you post it as it was, then it's not buildable. So what we did is that we got through the owner that redo the subdivision. It was cost a lot of time and the money as
Yeah.
well to just to do that, point 2 acres in order for them to, meet the regulation on that. So it's all kind of things. So it's very important to find a beautiful lot. And then unfortunately that, if clients comes to me, I always trying to verify if this lot is buildable as possible as I could to go to Harvard, to go to the county, to research the history of this lot and then exactly the shape and then the square footage of the lot as well.
So go ahead, Tom.
Let me just say that, especially because a lot of times people come to me first and they want to know what they qualify for, and we try and, put the pieces of the puzzle together from the land to the development. Maybe they own a piece of property, maybe they're looking for a piece of property, and then the house. And as we talked about earlier, the house itself, it does have a lot of variable factors, square footage specs, quality of work, and those type of things, and sometimes even are hard to quantify. We could have a full hours discussion on definition of what is quality. Everybody's definition of quality is different, and what you're going to have to pay for it is different. But when it comes down to where it starts, I think we had a conversation. What is one of the most valuable tools that we can give people, and that is to work with somebody that understands this process, because it starts with the land. A good deal, a good financial and emotional process of a good building experience really starts with the property and knowing what you can do on that property. And that is actually the most unknown variable. You can price out the sticks and the bricks of a house. Once you figure out what you want your elevation to look like and you get a set of plans, you can put that plan out for bid for as many builders as you have the stomach to work with or meet with, and to go through that process. But the land, even when you get into the land, you might not know exactly what you can do
You
in
guys hear me?
the process. Mhm. Yep.
Tom,
Until you
I
get into
couldn't
the
hear you.
process. Could you
Okay.
still hear you?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So
Eh,
yeah, so it really starts with the land, and then there's undeveloped land. There's tear down and rebuilds, and all of the infield lots, acreage, waterfront. It goes on and on, but it really does start with the land. I think that's where people need to be not only educated as much as possible, but partner with somebody that understands, knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think you're actually what you're doing here is creating a collaborative team approach. Is there isn't one person that knows everything. Tom knows a tremendous amount. I know a tremendous amount. I'm still going to learn something. There's still a lot of information out there that I can learn. If you surround yourself with not just good people as resources, but those people acknowledge maybe where their shortcomings and have surrounded themselves with resources. Like I rely heavily on the input of my engineer when evaluating a lot.
Exactly,
And,
agree, 100%.
As you should.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, everybody
so
should, do that, surrounding with knowledge people and nice people who are willing to share their knowledge, especially, share their mistakes and not shamefully to share the mistake, because mistake always, not something like means that you are so weak and then you make this mistake, and it's not a shame thing. Sometimes, you have to learn through this mistake. It's actually jump into you guys are so ahead. Like, it's actually jump into the next questions. What are those, obvious mistakes that people normally make? And or, let's do that. What mistakes to avoid, for people to spend huge amounts of money into it? What are those mistakes and then you can avoid ahead?
there's so many, but I kind of touched on it earlier, is you need to do your research. Um, don't sign a contract if you're not comfortable with who you're signing a contract with. If there's not, you are going to spend a lot of time with your builder, with your lender, with your realtor. You're going to spend a lot of time with those people, but especially a builder. The building process takes 15, 18, 24 months sometimes, depending on the size, complexity of the project. There's always going to be ups and downs. Mistakes will happen. There needs to be trust, but I always say trust and verify. When somebody says to me, I trust you, I say, I don't want, I appreciate that, but verify. Don't trust me so much that you don't do your homework.
It's not
Um,
because, it's not your responsibility. You don't want to take responsibility. It's just because, everybody, we're all human that, we make mistakes. And then, if you have it, always good to have the second opinion and,
yep.
make the right decision on what, you
Listen,
know.
when somebody comes to me and wants to build a house, yeah, if there's good chemistry there, I want them to build with me. But I'd rather them go interview two or three other builders and come back to me because they value my knowledge and and value the relationship. That way, I'm confident that they've done their work. One mistake, and I alluded to it before, is do your research and don't go talk to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who thinks they know about home building, because most people honestly don't know the first thing about home building. Um, they think they do. They've heard horror stories, but do your research, go online, read. But remember, home building is also regional. So what applies in California does not apply here in the DMV. So make sure you read your contract. If you do not understand your contract, engage an attorney to explain it to you. Most builders are not going to rewrite their contract, but understanding what you are agreeing to is important. Understand what the specifications are for your home. What kind of windows am I getting? How are you insulating it? You know, there's so much that goes into good specifications that tell you what you're getting. Don't assume and don't say, and if somebody says, yeah, we do that, don't worry about it. Everything should be in writing. It should be in the specifications. Everything should be clear to you what is being built. Every change, there needs to be a change order. Don't do things on a handshake. I know there are builders out there who say, yeah, we'll do that. Don't worry about it. Acknowledge it, put it in writing. There's nothing wrong. A good builder who's a good businessman will appreciate somebody that wants to do things the right way. Let's do a change order just so I can memorialize it. No problem. I'll send one out this afternoon. Um, that doesn't mean you don't trust each other. It means you trust each other to do the thing, to do it right. And that's what you really want, is to do it right. Understand, you know, you can go into Home Depot and you can see all these, phenomenal looking appliances, plumbing fixtures. Trust your builder to guide you to the right materials, to the right installations. Okay. That's why the reason you hire a builder, reason you hire any professional is because they have the experience to be forward looking, to help you avoid the mistakes. The other thing that I really feel strongly about is put your money where in the assemblies that cannot easily be changed. You're not going to come back in 3 years and rip out your windows. You can replace your hardwood floors, but you can't come back and just add a brick front or a brick four sides in a couple of years. So put the money where into things that cannot easily be changed, that you are important to you, and don't cheap out on the structure, on your systems, because those are the aspects of the home assembly that will make your home, will add to your home's longevity, the comfort, and quite frankly, the lack of need for maintenance if things are done right up front.
I can add a couple things to that, and I can be pretty straightforward and brief on that, quite frankly, because when it comes to mistakes, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in new construction, especially semi-custom or custom home building, is they lead with excitement. And whereas that's very good for the builder, they want somebody that is excited and motivated to do it. If you're just excited about what it will be, then you're possibly setting yourself up for an emotional crash in the sense that you have to now go back, go to your specs, read between the lines, and come up with a really, really good plan, and to make sure that you are a good candidate to go through this process. I used to do workshops quite often, and I used to tell my clients if that were in the room or prospects that were in the room, and I would say to them, if at the end of this hour workshop that you're spending with me, I scare you out of building your new home and you just go and buy a resale, then I've probably saved you a lot of heartache and anxiety because you can feel emotionally whether or not am I really built for this. So that's number one, and number two is we started a long time ago in this conversation about where do you start, how do you find a builder piece of property. Well, vetting your builders, just understand that all builders are not created equal. If you're building a 10,000 square foot house with all of the whistles and bells, and you're going to plan on paying top dollar, please do not hire a guy that has only built a 2,500 square foot house and sees dollar signs and thinks that he's going to give you or she's going to give you a wonderful, wonderful price and deal because they know they can do it for less because they have low overhead and they're going to be there every day. No, you want to go with experience, 100%. Those are my two biggest. And of course, make sure you can afford it.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
and
go ahead, Howard.
I was just going to say, and that's a great segue. I advise clients that regardless of how much time they spend up front, they're going to go over. They're going to go over the budget. They're going to spend extra on upgrades and options. I typically, depending on how the job, if it's semi-custom, I've said 10 to 20%. If it's custom where you've spent a lot of time up front building everything in, then maybe you can say 10% more, but you will spend 10 to 20% more over and above your contract amount by the time it's over and done.
Yeah. And my takeaway is that, when you purchase the lot, you only look for the location. And it's actually, something that I experienced that mistake that I was trying to, because, everybody wants to go to Potomac and Bethesda area. It is, great schools, great, very convenient location and all that. But the thing is that, as Tom said, that, make sure it's under your budget. And then the house is actually the home that you are going to living there for a long time and you want to enjoy the home itself. I mean, all the environment are great, but it's also the plus. But basically, that you wouldn't use the same budget and then goes to Bethesda, but living in a 3-bedroom house, other than build it somewhere else that also fits your needs, but enjoy the 4,000 square footage house. So those are very, you got to think about it. As Tom said, that it's not emotionally processed. It is something that you really need to think about. And then the other thing is that not, finding a custom build consultant Like I talked with Tom and Howard for many times. I wish I, found a consultant at the time. I would like to pay you 1%, 2%, whatever, they were asking, because it will be, wiped off lots of my headache to do the research on what is this word. Like those are so many new words to me, and it is another animals in the, even though I have 10 years experience on the sales of the properties, but still like those are new words for me, and then this is a completely another world. So great advice is that find a trusted custom build consultant so that you don't have to spend so many times on top of it, and you don't feel like, oh, I'm so tired and I don't want to do it anymore. And lots of times people don't know that they could build. And until they talk to a consultant, until they talk with a builder, until they talk with Tom, a new construction specialized loan officer, then they learn that, oh, I have this option. So don't think a new build is something like, really, really expensive, or really, it can be very expensive, or, really hard to touch, but it is not, as you imagine, that hard.
Nope.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're going to be a total new person in a year from now when your house is complete, and we're going to come back and we're going to look at this and we're going to see how much you've learned and what you've been through. And
Oh, she's already learned a lot.
Yeah,
and our interview process is going to be very, very different. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And then also, we are here together and put all the resources get together. So Tom and Howard are main resource of mine. And then I do have other inspectors and, all that connections to, to get knowledge from. And then Tom and Howard, they have their own connections in this field. So we want to work together to identify the right lot and ensure the home fits the market. And this is, another thing that overbuild or underbuild are not, not something that we want. We really need to, do the research and study, and then build a fit home to ensure the future value as well, right? So
Yes.
yeah, and then this is always good to understand everything before that you build. Yeah, I mean anyone can build a home, and then the real questions are, you build the right house on the right lot in the right neighborhood. And it does take strategy, and it does take the knowledge, and does take, the risk as well. You want to.
It also takes patience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want to remediate those risks with real professionals, and, do the consultants, do the homework, and who can help you to tremendously reduce the time that you're doing the resource or the research. So that would be, help anybody looking to build a new construction.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very good.
Thanks, Lizzio. Thanks, Tom. Good to talk.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. Very, very well done and very helpful. I hope people get something out of it.